Um, Good morning, good afternoon, and a good evening to London. This is Grant Cameron, and I have a very special guest today, Annette Williamson from London, England, and I will get into a little bit about her story. Um, um, she has one of the more incredible stories there is, and it's a story that fits into my worldview as to what is going on. And also joining me today is Sinead Wellahan from Toronto. People brings a lot more of the right brain aspect to questions and stuff like that. And I really appreciate Sinead being here. So welcome, Sinead.
Thank you very much.
And welcome, Annette. And how are you doing today, Annette?
Oh, hi. Yeah, no, I'm doing well, thank you. Bit chilly in London, but hey,
Beautiful.
it was out today anyway.
Beautiful. I'll just set up my experience of how I came across your story. People who have followed me know that I'm very much into consciousness. I'm very much into channeled material. And I believe that if you want to know what's going on, you've got to talk to the people who are interacting with the phenomena. It doesn't matter how many videos you see, how many UFO photographs you see, how many pieces of metal you have. It's not until you actually interact with the people who are interacting with whatever the intelligence is behind the UFO phenomena that you're going to learn something. So what happened was I have a lot of friends on Facebook, and Annette had actually contacted me on Facebook, and we had done sort of some exchanges. I think you had sent me a couple of your drawings that you had done.
Yeah.
Annette does drawings that fit into the messages she's being given. And I really didn't realize who she was, and I sort of, responded back. And then Annette appeared on a show called, what's it called? Alien.
No, Joe Wood's My Alien podcast.
It's an alien podcast, yeah. And so Joe Wood, who was with the Rolling Stones for many years, is the wife of Ronnie Wood, had a very dramatic UFO sighting personally, and then she had one with her son in the Stones plane, and suddenly started this Alien Nation. It's called Alien Nation podcast.
Alien Nation, that's right.
And so Annette went on the show. I was on the show, and then Annette went on the show, and I listened to the show, and I said, who is this woman? And I started Googling, and I went, I wonder if she's on Facebook. And I went on Facebook, and I realized I'd actually exchanged messages with you. And I was just taken by your broadcast. It was a fascinating interview you did. And I thought, wow, because to me, it's, as I pointed out before we started the broadcast, there's most of the UFO community is still into the material nuts and bolts. It's either an enemy coming to eat us, or it's Santa Claus bringing us toys or whatever. And the message that you were putting out, it was like, wow, she is getting the message. So we'll take it from there. I contacted you, and we've exchanged a lot of messages. We've had a lot of trouble because you're with your grandchildren, and you've been doing stuff, and I've been doing stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to us. And I really appreciate your story. So maybe for the listeners who really don't know your story, can you start about, you've only been doing this, what, for 2 years? Suddenly you got thrown into the midst of this thing?
Totally. Yeah, well, literally a date. I can give you a date. It was on the 18th of October, 2017. Simple as that. My life completely got turned, my reality, everything got turned on its head. Yeah. Just like that, within an hour. And that happened because of a friend of mine had put up on her Facebook in the morning, this little picture of an alien with a big head, little arms, and little feet. It was an image, but no face features, with the words, "Humans, are you ready?" And I remember just looking at it, thinking, what? This is not the sort of thing that my friend would ever speak about. Anyway, I phoned her and said, can I come round? What's happening? And she was quite, she said, oh, my alien family have turned up at the weekend. And I remember thinking, oh, it's really interesting. All right, okay, that's I'm going to come round. I said, can I come round? She said, yes. Blah, blah. Anyway, so I was actually at her house, and we were in her front room, and she was just explaining to me how, she'd seen these three beings, and then she just stopped, And I could tell her whole body language changed as she was looking at me. She just sort of froze and looked over my shoulder. And she just said, they're here, they're standing in the hallway. And I remember thinking, oh, okay, I didn't know really what I was speaking. Well, I didn't think anything at that point. And anyway, they came, she said, I want to speak to you. And I just remember saying, okay. And then what was happening is they were speaking to her in thoughts, and then she was catching it, is the way, because she was sort of, and then she would just say it, what they were saying. And the first thing they said to me is, haven't you had enough yet? And I remember thinking, I didn't know, now I know, but at the time I had I just remember going, what are they talking about? I don't know, what are they talking about? So that first hour's conversation was literally an hour, but they jumped subjects very quickly. They said, the first actual sentence they said to us was, what do you humans think happens when you pick a flower? And I remember we went, oh, it dies, maybe compost or something. And then they went, no. And this is Zoe saying it. So she was very pronounced. She was like, no, because she's channeling every word at that point. Nothing dies. Energy can't die. It can only change form. And then they started talking about, does humans know about dimensions, multi-dimensions? There was quite a lot of contact in that first hour. Anyway, they left after about an hour, and me and my friend were just sitting there. We were just a little bit in shock. And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't even know what to think at that point. I don't know, what do you think? I remember driving home from my house. It was dark. I just remember just driving home in a complete and utter daze. And then by the time I'd got home, I was already started receiving messages from my friend, and it would start with from the beings, and then it would say from the beings, what, and it would be a question. It would be, what do you like? I remember they asked one of the questions off the top of my head. I remember them saying, what do you think happens if humans can only love their own? And then they'd just leave that with me for, for a little while. And then I remember thinking, well, yeah, okay, I understand that. And it was a constant, they stayed for 3 months. It was extremely intense for 3 months. I was writing all the time. I got through Christmas and all sorts of things. And then at the end of January, after we had so many conversations, it was like having a big brother on tap. I know I say that really badly now, but I felt I could ask him anything, and I was going to get the ultimate answer. And so there was lots of questions I asked. We were both asking. They were sometimes they spoke to us in riddles. Sometimes they had like almost a curious sense about them. But then they stayed for about 3 months, and when at the end of January I could feel the energy changing. And I remember saying at the beginning, I knew that they weren't going to be around in this form for that length of time. I just knew it was something very different, and that I must write it all down. So so they stayed, and then they said they were leaving at the end of January to go and visit other humans, and that they were we were going for this big consciousness shift, and that we will come in, that we've constantly been in cycles. They've done it many times before. They said they've been here for billions of billions. This is what they were saying at the front, at the beginning. I've evolved since then. So this is the conversations that I was having 2 years ago with them. And then as it's evolved, it goes deeper and then deeper and then deeper. It's like, and also they go back over the same thing quite a lot until it sinks in. So they would bring up the same conversation quite a lot over and over and over until it sank in, that me and my friend would juggle it between us, and then we'd sort of go, no, it can't be that, it must be this. And so it was a lot of that going on. And yeah, and then after that, I came across Joe. Is literally, we're all steered. So, I mean, you can, some of the things that are being said is that they talk to all humans, and it's finding that frequency that you listen, but they do speak to all humans. Do you want me to carry on talking, and do you want me to ask some questions? Because you have to stop me, because it will just start to just roll out. So please feel free to jump in at any time.
Okay. Well, maybe Sinead could, because Sinead has really not heard the story as much as I have. So maybe
Okay.
Sinead can jump in with questions as to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question, Annette, about how this was occurring. So initially you saw your friend did this drawing where it showed a drawing of an alien and then the phrase, humans, are you ready? And then the
Yeah.
same day this communication began, is that right?
Yep.
Okay, and then after that, all the communication that was happening between you and your friend was through messaging, like text messaging, and then she would pass that on to them and they would come back with response through her. How exactly was that
No,
happening?
not all like that. Because as soon she's not a close friend that I see all the time. I hadn't seen her for 3 years before this has happened, or about 2.5 years I hadn't seen her for. So how it was happening is that she was also in shock. So she would say things like so for, let's say, the first week. I mean, I've wrote it all down. I wrote actually a day-to-day diary of how it happened, where it happened, what time, what was said, things like that, because I was just constantly, it felt like every day they were saying something different, and every day I was just like, bang, bang, wow, wow. So it was a constant state of shock, it felt like, repeating every day. So it was coming all around. They were talking, effectively, for the first 3 months, I didn't feel confident enough to know that I had my own link, basically, even though they kept telling me that they had been with me, and they had showed me in a couple of instances, different times that they were in my life as I was growing up. And they showed it to me like things like a film in my mind, and it was like, you remember this? Bang, that was us. Remember this? Bang, yes, that was us. And I remember feeling the feeling, and I think, oh yeah, okay, so that was you. Okay, that was you. I didn't know that.
What,
And
sorry, what's an example of that? Like, what's an example of something that you saw in your mind that made you go, oh, that was them. They were there at that time in my life.
when I should have split up with my daughter's father, and I didn't. And it was a 2 road, and it was a particular day and a particular instinct. And I actually, and it was flashes around that time, but it was a particular afternoon, a whole conversation. And it was really weird, because at the time, the thing that we were arguing about, which when I laugh about it now, is that I had just gone into Christianity. And I was about 23, and I'd come home after we've had a child together, and I said, that's it, I'm a Christian, we can't sleep together anymore. And that's the end of that. And I remember we had a big argument about it, but there was something what was telling me, and I could feel it, but I never went down that religious route. So I mean, it lasted a little while. I looked into it, and I was quite young, and it started off a sort of growth on that side, looking into certain things, but not enough to pull me into anything. But that was shown to me, and it was like, you get choices. You constantly, as humans in oneness, because there is only consciousness, and we are just energy and forms connected to this consciousness, aliens, whatever you want to call them. They come in different forms to different people, different places, whatever you've called for, because it all comes from self. Then they come, at any time. So they kind of sort of, I don't know if it's because I'm dyslexic. I don't naturally see words, so I feel everything anyway. And I remember the feelings of things and the memories. I remember the feeling attached to the memories. And I remember that. And I was shown all different examples. I can't off the top of my head, but I know I wrote them down. So they're in my writings, because as it was coming, I was, and they'd always say things like, look at the opposite. They would always tell me to look at the opposite of something. If I was watching on television, this is while they were instinctively very much around. The energy every day around me felt completely different. I felt different to everybody else. I can't explain that. Even though I was getting on with my day-to-day stuff, I felt a constant, like almost like I was like, that's the only way to describe it, like a buzzing sensation through me. And I was just talking constantly in mind. And then the difference is I would have confirmation via my friend. So I could go for a whole day talking in mind, writing it all down, come to the evening, and I'll give my friend a call and say, oh, have you seen the beings today? And I wouldn't have to say anything to her. And she'll say, yes. Today they were talking about yin and yang, or today they were talking about there is no darkness and what, it's only perception. But yet I'd had the same thing translated to me all day and not had anything to do with my friends. Yet she's seeing them and getting it. And I was getting it. And the reason they've done that is to show how it happens. I'm not seeing beings, but I am connecting to them, and I'm aware I'm connected to them, and I talk to them, and I see where it's going. They tell, you know, and I know from what they said, every single human has that ability. It's if they remember it or not, or if that. But again, we all have contracts as well. They said that I drew loads of pictures to this because they were describing. I remember them saying things like. They said, why do humans always talk about the past? Every sentence, more often than not, has something to do with the past. Don't they know that today's energy is where it's at? Right. And I remember thinking about that then, and I thought I got it, but I didn't until recently, because then they started saying that there is only now. There's only consciousness. There's only now. As soon as you blink your eyes, it's gone. It's, in fact, they describe death as every time you blink your eyes, that's death, because there is no death, it's a continuation.
So if I can jump in here for a minute, if there's so much communication going on between you and them, when you are receiving this communication, because you were also referencing a couple of minutes ago about how you get this particular feeling, which I can relate to as well. Do you feel like it's the feeling you just know what they're telling you, or are you hearing words in your head? Are you hearing a voice? Like, how are you receiving these specific...
I hear it as me talking to me.
Okay.
So it'd be random. So I could be watching the telly and it might say, you know, the voice would be my voice, but it would be something like, well, I had so many conversations with them that I know how they speak, so they might interrupt, and I'd get something like the other day, which was really random. It says, does humans remember that you have no age? That came into my mind just randomly in the afternoon, and I remember chuckling to it, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot we've got no age. And then I would start a conversation in mind. So then I'd go, yes. I mean, sometimes I literally talk around my house going, oh yeah, that's really funny, blah, blah. And then I'll go to mind and then back. So I suppose what people would call, it takes me, we can go, there's lots of conversations regarding that. There's lots of umbrellas because I was thinking about it today, about what we class as disabilities and what they classed as different contracts, and how humans label and box these what so-called disabilities, when that soul, that energy has chosen to experience this it's an illusion. They said that it was an illusion, this illusion. And who are we humans to put words and put our, what we think on that, when that is a person's energy's choice to experience this illusion like that. They said lots of things to do with that. Loads of stuff, actually. I don't know why I've jumped there, but something was shown to me to jump. But I think it was to do with the dyslexia.
Can I ask about the dyslexia? Because Zoe is also dyslexic, and I know there are a lot of people in the UFO community that are. Do you think that may be part of why you're tapped into this, or you're able to?
100%. 100%. Yeah, they spoke about dyslexia. We asked them because we're both dyslexic. So
okay, so tell us, what did they say?
I'm going to have to give you the writing on that, the proper writing, because I wrote it up. There is actually proper a whole, and I can't relay it off memory. But the ballpark of it was with different disabilities or dyslexia or dyspraxia or anything like that. A lot of the consciousness refer to be in their mind. They'll talk a lot in minds. They might not say a lot on the outside, but a lot's going on behind the eyes. So when they were describing dyslexia, they were just talking about different. They give a proper sort of scientific bit to it, but I can't remember that bit. But as I say, it's written down. They're talking about the left side and the right side of the brain and how brains operate, and that each brain operates different to that human. And that's a beautiful thing. They spoke with dyslexia. Because I'm dyslexic, the only way I can describe it for me is that I spend my whole time now, I know, in consciousness, talking in consciousness. And for me to read a word, I have to concentrate and come out of consciousness, and I can't explain it. Literally focus now on this word, to find this word. If I've got a match, like it's like turning over a memory card. If I've got a match for it that I can bring out. And I found when the beings started talking to me, I would get like pictures, pictures, not just obviously pictures that I felt like I had to draw. Sometimes like it would be like a movie sort of shown in front of me as they speak, and a feeling. It's like all the central is going off at one time. So, but I do know when I'd looked into, because I'm dyslexic, before all this with the beings, I was actually, both my friend and I were both dyslexic, and she's a dyslexic teacher. So we had been doing some dyslexic classes for awareness. So we were both quite used to explaining how dyslexia works. And how they work with us is straight through thought, because they said all thought provokes action. So they will always come through thought. Well, not always. Sometimes you're going to see them if that's in your contract, but most of the time it's thought. And they said they connect through daydreaming, deep sleep dreaming. They said that's all oneness. They said that they connect. They did talk about the pineal gland. They said that all humans, they spoke about atoms and proteins and all that sort of stuff as well. But they were saying all atom, because they said all atom is in each human. And then they said that each human can connect to the oneness. They sort of gave us little, skills. It's the same skills they've been given over and over again. Go through the pineal gland, a visualization. They showed me how to self-heal like that. You can go through your pineal gland. They said visualize yourself as like a little dot going through your pineal gland. And then you can just heal from within. You can just rub. I used to rub my back from inside my body, and it would go, the pain would go. But again, it was all part, that was in the earlier days. As I've sort of grown with them, I understand there's other levels to self-healing. So it's way deep, but they've given us some surface stuff, if you like, about what's going to come.
Can you heal other people?
Pardon?
Can you heal other people? Have you got a healing talent?
I don't know. I've never tried it.
Okay.
I would
Go ahead, Sinead.
teach someone how to heal themselves. I could, I could teach someone how to heal themselves, because I believe that's possible. But then the other side of it is, I remember that they also said sometimes if you suffer pain or something, it's because you're doing something wrong, and your contract, your gut, your inner self, your higher self is going to cause you pain to stop you doing what you're doing, so you go in another direction. So they did say that as well. They said there was no, I remember we having a conversation about choice, and because they said they're always talking in your ears. So, and basically what they were explaining was that they said that humans and other beings created this creation together from the start. And they said it's eons old story, it's forever old, it's been going around in cycles. And it just constantly goes around, but there is no difference between aliens and beings apart from our forms, if you like, as we play into the stories. But our essence is one. And they said that they've always been with humans. There's never been any separation. They said that, energy, consciousness is, they told us about stones, wood, fossils, dinosaurs. They went into loads of different subjects about lots of different things, but really, another interesting one was time. Time, because they said, I remember we're talking to them once, and I remember they were talking about time, and I asked them about Atlantis, and they said Atlantis hasn't gone anywhere, and if you wanted to, in another time dimension, you could go there. Because it's still there. Just because you can't see it in this dimension doesn't mean to say it's gone anywhere. That time doesn't go anywhere. It's the only thing that actually moves is your collective consciousness. That's all there is. So they said, so that was quite a big one. Yeah, that's when they came back and said, remember humans, you've got no age.
Wow. So this is such a rich experience, and I'm thinking about the seed of all of this, you know, the beginning, like how this all began for you. It sounds like there could be two sort of chapters to this experience. One would be when this happened on October 18th, 2017. And another is that it sounds like you were already doing some seeking and some, you know, your venture into Christianity. And I'm sure there were other things you tried as well to figure out, what am I doing? Who am I? What am I here for? As many of us do. So I have a question for you, because you're nodding right now, indicating that you were already seeking in your life. And then all of a sudden, but of course not all of a sudden, October 18th happened. Prior to October 18th, meaning shortly before then, or maybe right around then, was there something that had occurred either in your mind or an experience you might have had or anything that could have possibly cracked you open, so to speak, to be able to have this happen, even if it was your friend as a trigger or a conduit?
Right. So that's quite a good question, because no one's asked me this before. And I did speak to the beings today and said I was actually going to mention this because I haven't mentioned it before. 3 weeks prior to the beings turning up, without my friend knowing, my dad passed. I'd been with him for 2.5 years, getting him through chemo. You know, we are a close family. My mum, my brother were all there. It's just my mum was quite sick at the same time. So I spent 2 years solidly with my father getting through chemo. But my dad was the one that got me sort of searching in the first place. My dad used to work for NASA. He used to put all the satellites in the sky, and he worked with the BBC over here. But he used to give me clippets as a child, and I remember he was the one when I said, "Oh, Dad, I'm becoming a Christian." He sort of went, "Okay, well, you know, which God are you going to pray to?" sort of thing. And I remember thinking, "Oh, what are you talking about?" And then we started. He kind of, now I know it's all part of the story. That's why it was my dad, and that's why we could talk about things. So my dad and I were sitting in Marsden Cancer Unit talking about reincarnation, because I didn't have any facts and figures, but I just felt it, and I just kept saying, "Oh, Dad, I'm sure it's, you never know where you're going to be. Might be in you know, sailing around the world or something next." You just have this sense of knowing. So that was it. My dad passed. It was quite a weird transaction for me because I had a sense of knowing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But anyway, and then I think it was probably about 3 weeks after that when my friend put this thing up. Now I haven't seen her for 2.5 years. We're not friends like that. So she had no idea my dad was ill. She had no idea he had passed, you know, anything. And then that first hour-long conversation was directed to me to tell me there is no death. And I literally later on went to my sister and I said, "I literally feel that Dad's gone back to this oneness," because I remember I didn't know really what I was talking about then. Gone back to this oneness and said, "Oh, you know, Annette's had all these questions. We're always asking these questions. Go back and fill in the jigsaw puzzle." And it literally came back and they went bang, 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 bang. But questions that I wanted to ask, not because I had other friends afterwards and they said, oh, I wish why didn't you ask them this? Or why didn't you ask them that? And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's a good, I don't know why I didn't. I only asked them things that I was interested in. I asked about, well, I didn't have to ask them about things to do with worldly things because they were telling us that anyway." And then towards the end of the 3 months, it suddenly really hit me what I was speaking to. And then I kind of got a little bit, not scared, but I can't explain what it was happening. It was constantly changing. Everything was changing. And then my friend and I had this big argument. We didn't speak. And I remember just before that had happened, I'd sent a message to ask the beings. I've written down actually the question. And she'd come back with this message, and it gave me the hump at first, because she said, "The being said, you ask and you will answer." I remember thinking, what? Oh, I remember having the hump. I really do remember having the hump, thinking, well, they're not just your beings, they're everybody's beings. But I didn't understand it then. And I just remember thinking, oh, I don't know what that, but and then it evolved and that went on for about another year. And all it's just kept evolving now. So it from that moment it started growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and to where we are today. So
So Annette, I have another question. You've mentioned a couple of times 3 months, over the 3 months, like from October to January, yet you're also saying that you're still communicating with them, that you talk to them all the time. So what is it, what is it about this 3-month block? Why are you blocking off that particular period of time?
The 3 months it was like I needed confirmation constantly, and I got confirmation constantly. And the 3 months there was like, it almost, when they said, haven't you had enough yet? I remember at the time I thought they were talking about really things like dating habits and things like that. So I really didn't understand the depth of it at that point. And it's only, as I say, I've got the next time I speak, I'll probably send you all the writing so that you guys can have the writing that side, so I don't have to read it out aloud to you. And then you can have the writings and things in front of you, and then you can ask me what, bring it up, because you're a bit blind to this side, and I'm kind of sort of trying to look down here and look up again. But for the first 3 months, I had confirmation. So I can give you one particular day that I had woken up one day. It was in the morning. My phone had binged, but I'd chosen not to answer it. And my daughter had phoned me at 7:30, screaming down the phone. She's a young mum. That she got these parking tickets, the bailiff was outside, absolutely hysterical. And I remember, this is at 7:30 in the morning, I just opened my eyes, and I remember thinking, oh, and then I saw a message from my friend. So I thought, well, there's a message from the beings, possibly, it might not be, it might just be from her, or I can deal with my life with my daughter right now. And I put the beings off, and I thought, no, I can't deal with you right now. I have to deal with my daughter, right? So picked up the phone to her, hysterically crying, the most stressful 7 hours of my life, on, trying to work out what the law is commanding bailiffs and situations and all this stuff that I've never dealt with before. And then only at 2 o'clock to phone my daughter up and for her to say, oh, don't worry about it, Mum. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, I've sorted all that, failing to tell me. Now, I was literally pulling my hair out. I wanted to cry. I was so stressed out. And I remember just picking up my phone and looking, and I thought, can I deal with these right now, the messages? No. And that was one of the days where I went out the back, and I was in the back and I was absolutely sobbing, because they'd already told us by that point that we choose our own contracts, and that the energy doesn't know energy doesn't know what emotion, if it's a good emotion or a bad emotion. Those are the labels that we put on it. The sensation on the body is emotion, and that's what the experience is all about, the emotions that we go through in Illusion Earth. And so I was just falling apart in tears, thinking, what a crap life I've made for myself, really. And I mean, I was really upset. I've had major spinal surgeries, I've had hip operations, I've spent 10 years not being able to walk when I was younger, and I was just literally just so upset with the whole lot. And I remember getting in the car, going to get some shopping, driving home, crying my eyes out. Got home and thought, right, pull yourself together, have a cup of tea. So English, have a cup of tea. And so I did, but literally that's what I did. And I thought, right, look at these messages now. And I looked at the messages, and this is now 6:30 in the evening. So I've done the entire day of feeling stressed, crying, beating myself up, thinking what a lousy life I've got. And then the messages came, and the first message must have come maybe 4:15 in the morning. So she would have been channeling those poor messages at 4:15 in the morning, and she did. She said they woke her up in her sleep and said, you must send these to Annette. And the first message was something like, remember, you chose this experience today. And the next one was, this is just an illusion, keep yourself grounded. And the next, I mean, it was a constant, there was about 4 or 5 messages, short ones like that, constantly. So I remember thinking, oh, wow, so you must know what's going to happen to us before it happens. Because if I'd read those messages before my day, I probably wouldn't have handled the day the way I had handled it. Sort of steaming straight in there, going, taking all everybody else's emotions on, straight, the most stressful day I can think of. Whereas I chose not to take the messages, and I experienced that day only to know after the effect that I had been warned, if you like. Again, I've got the messages all wrote down, the times that they came and everything. It's on my old phone. That saying, preparing me for such a day, but I chose not to, because we have those choices. And that was an example to me later on, because I thought, okay, I understand. Okay, I got it. And it's like, you know, your essence, your inner voice will constantly, you get up every day and think, oh, this is what I'm going to do today, da, 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 da. And you think that's all coming from self, and it is, but it's also been, self is everything. So it's like, it's funneled to you. So, you know, and also they said that it's cycles, and we've all done it before. And they said, you know, everything, every word that comes, oh no, I know this one. Every thought that comes to your mind comes from an action already done or told.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, considering that we choose these contracts to come back into these lives and these bodies with these disabilities or whatever it is, whatever our challenges are in life. It's as if we have to keep getting it right. We have to keep trying to get it right, so to speak, so that we can maybe evolve or something.
You will
but it makes sense too that they knew what you were going through that day, because of course, you know, like you're saying, everything is consciousness, that we're all connected. And so they must have been able to be right there with you in the experience that you were having. I do have one more question for you, if that's all right, about the communication. It seems that sometimes they communicate with you directly, and other times they communicate with you through your friend. Do you have a sense of why that is?
No, it's not like that. They go directly to me. And when me and my friends split up, I was on my own. So I thought, oh, the reason I had the hump, so I thought, right, they've gone now, that's it, they've gone. That was it, 3 months, great, lovely. I thought that, you know, I actually went through a morning of grieving where I actually felt like I felt, when I was with them, I almost felt untouchable, because I thought, oh, I've got aliens following me around. And it's not that, but there was things that my own experience through that, as much as I said 3 months to you, lots of things happened in that 3 months. Experiences that are just, I heard a woman's voice in my head one night tell me to sleep, but wasn't my voice. And I remember thinking, that's not my voice. That's not my voice. And I remember literally laying in bed thinking, that's not my voice. That's not my voice. And then this feeling from my feet up, and I've had operations. So if you've had an operation, when they put you down, you get this sort of, you start to go sort of, it's almost like passing out as well. From my feet up, I felt a sensation coming from my feet up. By the time it got to my waist, because it was quite slow, but not really slow, like an operation sort of feeling. And as it got to my waist, I remember thinking, oh, I know this feeling. This is quite a nice relaxing feeling. I'm going to go to sleep now. But I know that wasn't my voice. And I woke up in the morning thinking that wasn't my voice. And so I wrote, you know, but no memory of that night, but yet pictures that I have to get down onto paper. But I don't bother asking the questions anymore. I don't bother sort of going, oh, what's that about? Or, you know, did you take me up in our spaceship last night? Or, you know, I don't ask those sort of things, because I understand it's the reality that we come from within. So I get other things given to me now that I tend to write about. That, yeah, there's lots. There's the whole growth, really. I've got from day dot to where I am today, and I've got the whole lot dated, written down, and because I've got that, and I had the pictures, it's like stamped in you. I can't, you know, describe it. It's like it either hits or it misses. It's either a hit or miss. But then saying that, I've got girlfriends. Remember, I've got girlfriends that don't talk about UFOs. None of my girlfriends talk about UFOs. None of them, not one of them. I don't have friends in that community. None of my friends have ever been in that world. So for me, just to come round to the houses, it's still quite, at the beginning, I went into what I just couldn't stop talking about it. I was just like, I couldn't, literally, I went every single day. I remember, oh gosh, I'm remembering things that happened in that time, and it's making me just think, oh, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I remember being in a supermarket.
At the same time, it makes sense that you had difficulty remembering, because so much was happening, so much was going on.
I'm so glad I wrote it down. That's all I can say, because some of the stuff I laugh about now, but at the time, even at the time after it was happening, I think, I can't believe that's just happened. So one day I was at the supermarket, and I used to be a hairdresser, off and on, bit of freelance. Anyway, this was a client I hadn't seen for a long time, and she was standing. I was paying at the checkout, and I could see her standing sort of to my left, and I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I'd been writing, talking to the beings. I just looked like I shouldn't be out on the street at that moment. My hair was all stuffed up and everything. Anyway, whatever. I saw her, and in my mind, I remember thinking, oh, there's whatever her name is. I hope she's well. Next minute, I get this whole thing coming to me. Because I know that this lady, this is why this is, at the moment, I'm just so glad it was with the beings, because I would never normally do anything like this. I know this lady had lost a child, because I was with her while she went through that as a hairdresser at that time. So I'm standing at the till, and they said to me, the lady, she's pregnant, and it's going to be a little girl, because she had a son before, and he died very young as a baby. And they said, he's going to be a little girl, and you can tell her that the energy that came before was a boy, and it didn't want to be a boy. It just wanted to experience being in the womb and being born for that very short period of time. But it's come back, and it's a girl now. And I remember in my head, I literally remember thinking, I am not going to tell her that. There is no way I am going to walk over to her and tell her she might not even be pregnant. So I was literally doing, this is all happening in my head, and I'm thinking, no, I am not telling her that, I'm not telling her that. And then I walk over to her, like, what am I doing? And I'm going to put my hands on her, and she went, oh, hi, Annette, how are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm well, how are you? She went, yeah. And I went, tapped her tummy, and I went to her, okay, you're pregnant, you're going to have a little girl. I know that you've lost this little baby, or we knew all that anyway, she knew that. And I said, but you know, I'm having this sort of spiritual experience with beings at the moment, and I didn't know how to explain it. And I went, and they're kind of telling me at the moment to say that it wasn't nothing to do with you, and that it was his choice, and that now he's coming back as a girl. And then I just stopped, and I went, okay, it's lovely to see you anyway, bye. And I ran off, right, because I just thought, what am I doing? Oh God, what? She wasn't. But anyway, she called me and came up, and she went, I am pregnant. And she said, but only me and my husband know. I found out 2 days ago. And she said, I want to come and see you. Who are these beings? I want to come and see you. And I remember saying, oh, not now, but another time. Because I was just going through the motions, thinking, oh no, I'm so glad that went right. It could have gone really badly wrong. So, and she had another girl. She had a baby girl, and she's called her Phoenix. She actually phoned me up and got in contact with me and said, I called her Phoenix because raising from the ashes after what you said. And I thought, oh, that is really sweet. And I went, but that was then when I was in the energy, really in it. Now I think I'm not that brave. I can't explain it. I don't know if I'd run up to people and I remember I had somebody else at the bus stop was drinking a bottle of Evian, and I said to them, you know, rainwater was much better than that. My sister started stabbing me, going, what are you doing? I'm like, I can't help it. It's just making me say it. I said, just get some rainwater. It's really good for you. Just filter a little bit out. I said, you don't have to buy all that. It's too expensive. But that was when I was in this like euphoria, if you like, of it. I've kind of calmed from that now, and I just know I'm much more not so. It was new then. It was like everything was new. It was new. Now I'm like a bit cliche. I'm like a bit more at hand with it now, so I can handle it. When they talk, I know they're talking. I can hold it down if I want to hold it down. I don't have to sort of go blurting out. I can, but they do talk to people. So, and they will specifically say things to people. So, and yeah, so that comes. So that's quite cool. Sorry, I know I talk a lot, but that was quite a funny one.
Beautiful. Can I go to the beings, because I share a lot of what you're saying. And I got it sort of independently from what you were told. I got it through different sort of sources. But the one thing I'm on now, and I had emailed you maybe a week ago about this. So a lot of people in the UFO community will think, okay, Annette's talking to an alien from, what planet is it from? And so my question is it an alien? Is it from another planet? Does it have, can it hear? Can it see? What is really going on? What are people missing? Because I think you're on the same page as me that this probably isn't an alien from another planet.
No, because during my time with them, we asked them if they explained the, okay, we're going to go deep down this rabbit hole now. They told us that the sun and the moon and other planets that we see we perceive them as shape, but they have no form. They're just energy and frequency that we perceive as the shape, and they just glide in and out of dimensions, and that's all there is. There is no other planets. However, if someone's contract is to find a planet, if they've said, right, when I go to Earth, I want to work for NASA and I'm going to find limitless amounts of planets and galaxies and whatever, they will. And because that's in their contract to do that, that doesn't necessarily mean it's there, because they said there is no planets. It's all from self, that everything is in self. And they said, if you like, they literally said, the Earth has no shape. They said, if you look up, it will keep going. If you look down, it will keep going. It's an illusion. So if people ask me if they, because a lot of people did say to me, what planet did they come from? And what race are they? And what planet did they come from? But I understand that, because they'd already explained to me that each energy, each contract will experience them in different ways here in this illusion, and that they've been here forever, as I said, in different forms to different people, and that everything in cycles, that we go into this sort of enlightenment, then we go into the sort of dark age, and we go into this enlightenment, and we change as well. Humans change form as well. They don't just stay the same. They're also completely changing form all the time for the different experiences, because it's like a reincarnation of energy. So they said, when you continue on, because they never use the word death. In fact, that should be taken out of our dictionary completely, because nothing in this entire place ever dies. Nothing dies. It's everything, the wood, stone, everything continuation. Not everything is living, if you like, part of the illusion. It's all part of the illusion with us. So it's a continuation of everything. I've gone off track now, because I'm talking, it's coming at me like that. Pull me back. Just pull me back when I get like that. What was the question?
Well, it's the thing about the alien thing, where people get the impression that.
So everybody, this is what they said. This is exactly what they said to me. They said that in 3 generations, they were talking to me personally. So they said in 3 generations. So they actually said to me, your children's children's children will have a different reality from you. They will have a choice that you don't have now, and it will be a choice of love and sharing. And they said that it's not just humans that have had enough of this reality. All beings taking part in this reality have had enough. And not only that, all the energy that's waiting to come has had enough of it as well, because I felt their energy as well. I remember the beings were saying, humans, why do humans want to hang on to this earth? Don't they know there's so much more? And I understood that as the way that we've come to the point where we live in this illusion where we think that's it, we've got to make and accumulate as much as we can, because this is it, and then this is all there is, and it's done now after that. And that's not the case. We visit this place for a very short period while we're visiting other places at the same time, while I add. We're not just here, we're everywhere. So, we've all experienced ancient Egypt. We've all experienced everything. And we get sometimes clippets of it in deja vu, when it kind of collides in our consciousness. And then we get this like, oh, I've done this sometimes. We get it like that. So they explained that. They explained that in fact, they said this, repeated this the other day, that when an energy passes, because I don't like to ever use the word death, die, because it just doesn't happen, that it can come straight back in the same timeline, straight back in, born straight away, if it chooses to. But it can go to another dimension, because there's loads happening. The time's not going anywhere. It's just we're portraying it out into this. Yeah, it's hard for me because I'm not a scientist. I'm trying to come with it from layman's terms, because sometimes I read what scientific people write, and because of my dyslexia as well, I think I'm getting the same thing, but I can only go with what they told me, and they made their words quite short and sweet. They didn't give us elaborate words to explain anything. It was
Yeah, but
very,
I think that helps because you're a layman. I think the idea is that you're to give it to layman. If you were a scientist, a PhD, I remember I used to go to university, and I remember the one story where this guy had 2 PhDs, was teaching the class, and I leaned over to this woman beside me halfway through the course, and I said, "Do you understand what he's talking about?" And she said, "I've never understood what he's talking about." So I think maybe that is your message, is that you're to bring this to the layman because you're a layman. Otherwise, they would go to a PhD who, can't get his message across.
yeah, well, and the other thing is, they said, because my friends, and this is going to be a question that everybody's going to be probably thinking, why us? Why did they show to us? Because that's exactly what people were saying. My friends were saying, well, why you? Why are they talking to you? And I remember thinking, but they answered that because they said that that me and my friend had chosen this time at this place, for this to happen. And it was what we'd asked for. And this is when I remember conversations where they said, don't be ashamed of what you are experiencing this now. And they said, we've come to you in this form, what you asked for. This is what you wanted to experience us like this, at this time, this place. And it just said, we are the everything, and you all are as well. They always used to say that. They always used to say, we are everything, you are everything. It was always everything. It was always that, like that. I felt that constant everything all the time. They wanted to say it was oneness, collective, connected oneness. And when they first started talking to me, I'd never even heard of those terms before. I'm not one to be talking about things like consciousness shifts. And 3 years ago, I was writing to people saying there's going to be a consciousness shift happening. I've spoken to 3 aliens and this is what they're saying. No wonder none of them come back to me. I mean, I must have sent about 25 letters out to anybody. I could think of Stephen Hawkins. I sent a letter sort of going, oh, you don't know me. I'm an ex-hairdresser and this is what's happened. Oh, God, seriously.
And you contacted Oprah, correct? You went to Oprah.
I went to Oprah, yeah, she didn't contact me back, funny enough.
Wow,
And
Annette,
the Archbishop of Canterbury.
so wow, this is such an amazing story, and there's obviously such a ton to share with us, and unfortunately we've only got about 3 minutes left. And so I'm wondering if in relation to Grant's question about are they aliens, what are they, and you're responding that they're not identifying themselves, and they're also, like, clearly, but they're also saying that form is really irrelevant because it's all part of the one. So I'm just going to bounce this off you. Would you say that they are simply universal beings reflecting back to us our own universality?
Yes, that sounds like a good way of describing it, yeah. Because they took that form, but they did say that we are going to evolve into this time where there are going to be other beings interacting with humans, because they did say there are many beings that are going to come and interact with humans. And then now, as I've evolved, I understand that more of what you've just said. I was in the bit more them and us. It's all them and us, but it's not. It's much more deeper than that. It's even with me and my friend, we've had the same beings, the same conversations, the same messages. Yet she gives it in her way, and I give it in my way. Yet we have the same beings. In fact, they can be talking to her and talking to me at the same time. So, yeah, it's hard when people say they're aliens, because they did class themselves as aliens. I'm not going to lie, because when they said they showed, and we were talking at them as aliens, but then after a while they kept saying that they were carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and they said everything is hydrogen. This base, this 4 building blocks. So they said, call us, instead of, because we kept calling them the three beings, we did ask them if they were God. We said, are you God? And they said, there is no one divine being. There's only collective connected consciousness. That's it. That's all they replied. And then they said, call us Tron. And so we used to call, which is CHON. So we were having, calling them that, and yeah, loads of stuff. There was so much stuff going on in that time. There was a lot of stuff, but they talk in thought. That's what and the other thing that they said when they'd first come, in that first hour, when we asked them why they'd showed up, they said humans were ready, it was time. And then they said they'd come to reconnect, remember, and heal the division. But they made a point of making it like 2 words. They didn't say remember, reconnect. They kind of give it like reconnect, remember, heal the division. Because I remember me and my friend, well, she said, I don't understand what they're talking about. What division? And I went, there's divisions everywhere. We got divisions in our own family. We don't, we've got divisions with animals, with people that come look different from ourselves. We've got divisions. If we've got divisions all there, how are we going to embrace beings from another, yeah.
I'm going to ask you whether you'll do some more interviews with me, because you have an absolutely fascinating story and I want to promote it. So we're going to do another one with you showing your drawings, and we'll go through the drawings. And then I probably want to do another one like we did today. I'm absolutely fascinated with this story. So I appreciate your...
I can't wait till you come to the UK, because then I can come with my big bag, which
There
is
you
like
go.
a Mary Poppins bag, full of all the pictures and everything.
Beautiful. We'll do it, because I'm going to be there in June. So I appreciate your coming on, and thank you, Sinead. Have you got any closing comments, Sinead?
No, just Annette, this is such an extraordinary story. It's been so wonderful to hear it, and I really can't wait to hear more. It sounds...
Well, we would have arranged this before we got here, all of us. You know that. There's no coincidences.
Yes.
That's right.
It's all steered to where we are today at this moment. So we all know each other anyway. So we're getting to know each other down here.
Beautiful. Okay, I'll be in touch with you, and we can maybe share your drawings with Sinead. I've seen most of them, and we'll set up another interview shortly. Thank you for your time, and have a good day. And
Right,
I really appreciate your story.
Thank you so much, Annette.
No
Bye-bye.
worries. Bye. Bye.